Hold on. Wrong. There we go. I knew I was forgetting something. Hi, everyone. Let's turn that down. Welcome to Story Time with Sophia. It's going to be a nice chill stream. Let me know if I'm too quiet. The music will go off in a moment. Hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully there's not a lot of scuff this stream. My face is working again. Kind of have the problem solved. Hope everyone's doing well today. Good evening. Good evening. How was everyone's day? Let me know. You can hit the attendance button to check in. I might just let the music go the entire time. It's kind of nice and relaxed. I'm not sure. Maybe. Today we are going to continue reading The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. We are we're picking up back at chapter 11, and we'll read for a few chapters. We'll see what we get to. I'm not quite sure yet. The chapters coming up are a bit shorter than they have been in the past, and I think that's because Poirot is in it, and I think he's going to be really focusing on doing the interviews with other people and investigating and such. But I'm not quite sure exactly why it's shorter, but it is. So that'll be good. As for what happened last time, it's been a while. Let's see. There was a ring in a pond, and it looks like it was Flora's wet engagement band that she threw in the pond. There was an interesting conversation that Poirot and our narrator, the doctor, overheard between Flora and the major. There's some people who are pretty suspicious about knowing where things were when they shouldn't have. So there's that. Also some people who are very intuitive. And we learned that Robert Patton, the stepson, had a lot to inherit, as did Flora. And her mother is not happy about it because Flora got a very large sum of £20,000 from her uncle's death, and her mother, Mrs. Ackroyd, who's related to Roger Ackroyd by marriage, was not given the money to be custodian of over Flora. So there's some ill will in the regard. So I guess let's settle in and we'll begin the story. Let me know if the music is too distracting, or if it's too distracting, if I'm echoing, please let me know. That way I can change that out. Also, I want to give a thanks for the follow from Lemon Drops, who joined yesterday. Thank you for that. Lemon Drops was in the Apex game I was playing last night with Luna and Plague Bunny and ID10. That was really fun. And I'll repeat this again at the end, but tomorrow I am planning on streaming Apex for the first time on my channel with Narumi and Cinnabon, and probably Sky as well, as long as, we're still streaming and she comes around. I'm sure she will. And then on Saturday, I will be playing Uno and losing friends with Cinnabon again, and Miss Ray, and Rekka, one of Ray's friends. So it's going to be a very busy week coming up. And then Sunday, of course, is Horizon Zero Dawn in the morning, and Monday we go back to Minecraft Monday. Yay! So we've got a lot of things coming up. But anyway, let's jump into The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Again, if you pop in, hello. Tell me if I'm speaking too quietly, if the music's too loud, if I'm echoing. I'll change things around. So here we go. Chapter 11. Poirot pays a call. I was slightly nervous when I rang the bell at Marby Grange the following afternoon. I wondered very much what Poirot expected to find out. He had entrusted the job to me. Why? Was it because, as in the case of questioning Major Blunt, he wished to remain in the background? The wish, intelligible in the first case, seemed to me quite meaningless here. My meditations were interrupted by the advent of a smart parlor maid. Yes, Mrs. Folliot was home. Folliot was home? I was ushered into a big drawing room and looked around me curiously as I waited for the mistress of the house. A large bare room, some good bits of old china, and some beautiful etchings, shabby covers and curtains. A lady's room in every sense of the term. I turned from the inspection of a Bartolozzi on the wall as Mrs. Folliot came into the room. She was a tall woman with untidy brown hair and a very winning smile. "Dr. Shepherd," she said hesitatingly. "That is my name," I replied. "I must apologize for calling upon you like this, but I wanted some information about a parlor maid previously employed by you, Ursula Bourne." With the utterance of the name, the smile vanished from her face, and all cordiality froze out of her manner. She looked uncomfortable and ill at ease. "Ursula Bourne?" she said hesitatingly. "Yes," I said. "Perhaps you don't remember the name?" "Oh, yes, of course. I remember perfectly. She left you just over a year ago, I understand." Yes, she did. That is quite right." "And you were satisfied with her whilst she was with you? How long was she with you, by the way?" Heidi. Settle back and listen to the story. Please let me know if I'm too quiet, or the music's too loud, or if there's an echo. "Oh, a year or two. I can't remember exactly how long. She is very capable. I'm sure you will find her quite satisfactory. I didn't know she was leaving Fernley. I hadn't the least idea of it." "Can you tell me anything about her?" I asked. "Anything about her?" "Yes, where she comes from, who her people are, that sort of thing." Mrs. Folliot's face wore more than ever its frozen look. "I don't know at all." "Who was she with before she came to you?" "I'm afraid I don't remember." There was a spark of anger now underlying her nervousness. She flung her head in a gesture that was vaguely familiar. "Is it really necessary to ask all these questions?" "Not at all," I said with an air of surprise and a tinge of apology in my manner. "I had no idea you would mind answering them. I am very sorry." Her anger left her and she became confused again. "Oh, I don't mind answering them. I assure you I don't. Why should I? It just seemed a little odd, you know. That's all. A little odd." One advantage of being a medical practitioner is that you can usually tell when people are lying to you. I should have known from Mrs. Folliot's manner, if from nothing else, that she did mind answering my questions. Minded intensely. She was thoroughly uncomfortable and upset, and there was plainly some mystery in the background. I judged her to be a woman quite unused to deception of any kind, and consequently rendered acutely uneasy when forced to practice it. A child could have seen through her. "Hi, Racy Keen, how are you? Let me know if the audio's okay, both the music and my microphone. Let me know if the music is too distracting to the story, and I will turn it off or down even more." But it was also clear that she had no intention of telling me anything further. Whatever the mystery centering around Ursula Bourne might be, I was not going to learn it through Mrs. Folliot. Defeated, I apologized once more for disturbing her, took my hat, and departed. "Oh, okay. If you don't hear it, that's perfectly fine. I have it turned down pretty low. I'll turn it up a slight midget more. Okay. Defeated, I apologized once more for disturbing her, took my hat and departed. I went to see a couple of patients and arrived home about 6 o'clock. Caroline was sitting beside the wreck of tea things. She had that look of suppressed exultation on her face which I know only too well. It was a sure sign with her of either the getting or the giving of information. I wondered which it had been. "I had a very interesting afternoon," began Caroline, as I dropped into my own particular easy chair and stretched out my feet to the inviting blaze in the fireplace. Ooh, that sounds really nice right now, even though it's hot out. Have you, I said. Miss Gannett drop in to tea? Miss Gannett is one of the chief of our newsmongers. Guess again, said Caroline with intense complacency. I guessed several times, working slowly through all the members of Caroline's intelligence corps. My sister received each guess with a triumphant shake of the head. In the end, she volunteered the information herself. Monsieur Poirot, she said. Now, what do you think of that? I thought a good many things of it, but I was careful not to say them to Caroline. Why did he come? I asked. To see me, of course. He said that, knowing my brother so well, he hoped he might be permitted to make the acquaintance of his charming sister. Your charming sister. I've got mixed up, but you know what I mean. What did he talk about? I asked. He told me a lot about himself and his cases. You know that Prince Paul of Mauritania? The one who's just married a dancer? Yes. I saw the most intriguing paragraph about her in Society Snippets the other day, hinting that she was really a Russian Grand Duchess, one of the Tsar's daughters who managed to escape from the Bolsheviks. Well, it seems that Monsieur Poirot solved a baffling murder mystery that threatened to involve them both. Prince Paul was beside himself with gratitude. Did he give him an emerald tie pin the size of a plover's egg? I inquired sarcastically. He didn't mention it. Why? Nothing, I said. I thought it was always done. It is in detective fiction, anyway. The super detective always has his rooms littered with rubies and pearls and emeralds from grateful royal clients. It's very interesting to hear about these things from the inside, said my sister complacently. It would be to Caroline. I could not but admire the ingenuity of Monsieur Hercule Poirot, who had selected unerringly the case of all others that would appeal to an elderly lady living in a small village. Did he tell you if the dancer was really a Grand Duchess? I inquired. He was not at liberty to speak, said Caroline importantly. I wondered how far Poirot had strained the truth in talking to Caroline. Probably not at all. He had conveyed his innuendos by means of his eyebrows and his shoulders. And after all this, I remarked, I suppose you were ready to eat out of his hand? Don't be coarse, James. I don't know where you get these vulgar expressions from. Probably from my only link with the outside world, my patients. Unfortunately, my practice does not lie amongst royal princes and interesting Russian emigres. Caroline pushed her spectacles up and looked at me. You seem very grumpy, James. It must be your liver. A blue pill, I think, tonight. To see me in my own home, you would never imagine that I was a doctor of medicine. Caroline does the home prescribing both for herself and me. Damn my liver, I said irritably. Did you talk about the murder at all? Well, naturally, James. What else is there to talk about locally? I was able to set Monsieur Poirot straight upon several points. He was very grateful to me. He said I had the makings of a born detective in me, and a wonderful psychological insight into human nature. Caroline was exactly like a cat that was full to overflowing with rich cream. She was positively purring. He talked a lot about the little gray cells of the brain and of their functions. His own, he says, are of the first quality. Thanks. He would say so, I remarked bitterly. Modesty is certainly not his middle name. I wish he wouldn't be so horribly American, James. He thought it very important that Ralph should be found as soon as possible, and induced to come forward and give an account of himself. He says that his disappearance will produce a very unfortunate impression at the inquest. And what did you say to that? I agreed with him, said Caroline importantly, and I was able to tell him that people were already talking about it. Caroline, I said sharply, did you tell Monsieur Poirot what you overheard in the wood that day? I did, said Caroline complacently. I got up and began to walk about. You realize what you're doing, I hope, I jerked out. You're putting a halter around Ralph Patton's neck as surely as you're sitting in that chair. Not at all, said Caroline, quite unruffled. I was surprised you hadn't told him. I took very good care not to, I said. I'm fond of that boy. So am I. That's why I say you're talking nonsense. I don't believe Ralph did it, and so the truth can't hurt him, and we ought to give Monsieur Poirot all the help we can. Why, think, very likely Ralph was out with that identical girl on the night of the murder, and if so, he's got a perfect alibi. If he's got a perfect alibi, I retorted, why doesn't he come forward and say so? Might get the girl into trouble, said Caroline sapiently. But if Monsieur Poirot gets hold of her and puts it to her as her duty, she'll come forward of her own accord and clear Ralph. You seem to have invented a romantic fairy story of your own, I said. You read too many trashy novels, Caroline. I've already told you so. I dropped into my chair again. Did Poirot ask you any more questions? I inquired. Only about the patients you had that morning. The patients? I demanded unbelievingly. Yes, your surgery patients. How many and who they were. Do you mean to say you were able to tell him that? I demanded. Caroline is really amazing. Why not? Asked my sister triumphantly. I can see the path up to the surgery door perfectly from this window, and I've got an excellent memory, James. Much better than yours, let me tell you. I'm sure you have, I murmured mechanically. My sister went on checking the names on her fingers. There was old Mrs. Barnett, and that boy from the farm with the bad finger, Dolly Grice to have a needle out of her finger, that American steward off the liner. Let me see, that's 4, yes, and old George Evans with his ulcer, and lastly, she paused significantly. Well? Caroline brought out her climax triumphantly. She hissed it in the most approved style, aided by the fortunate number of S's at her disposal. Miss Russell. She sat back in her chair and looked at me meaningly. And when Caroline looks at you meaningly, it is impossible to miss. I don't know what you mean, I said quite untruthfully. Why shouldn't Miss Russell consult me about her bad knee? Bad knee, said Caroline. Fiddlesticks! No more bad knee than you and I. She was after something else. What? I asked. Caroline had to admit that she didn't know. But depend upon it, that was what he was trying to get at, Monsieur Poirot, I mean. There's something fishy about that woman, and he knows it. Precisely the remark Mrs. Ackroyd made to me yesterday, I said, that there was something fishy about Miss Russell. Ah, said Caroline darkly, Mrs. Ackroyd, that's another. Another what? Caroline refused to explain her remarks. She merely nodded her head several times, rolling up her knitting, and went upstairs to don the high mauve silk blouse and the gold locket which she calls dressing for dinner. I stayed there staring into the fire and thinking over Caroline's words. Had Poirot really come to gain information about Miss Russell, or was it only Caroline's tortuous mind that interrupted everything according to her own ideas? There had certainly been nothing in Miss Russell's manner that morning to arouse suspicion, at least. I remembered her persistent conversation on the subject of drug taking, and from that she had led the conversation to poisons and poisoning. But there was nothing in that. Ackroyd had not been poisoned. Still, it was odd. I heard Caroline's voice, rather acid in tone, calling from the top of the stairs, James, you will be late for dinner. I put some coal on the fire and went upstairs obediently. It is well at any price to have peace in the home. End of chapter 11. What's everyone thinking so far? And hello, whoever has come in. It's nice to see you and have you in. Hi, ID. Hi, Racy. How are you this evening? Hopefully everything is relaxing and calm for you. I'll sip my water. I'm all cozy in my library. Any questions before we continue? No? Okay, let's continue. Chapter 12, Round the Table. A joint inquest was held on Monday. I do not propose to give the proceedings in detail. To do so would only be to go over the same ground again and again. By arrangement with the police, very little was allowed to come out. I gave evidence as to the cause of Ackroyd's death and the probable time. The absence of Ralph Patten was commented on by the coroner, but not unduly stressed. Afterwards, Poirot and I had a few words with Inspector Raglan. The inspector was very grave. "It looks bad, Monsieur Poirot," he said. "I'm trying to judge the thing fair and square. I'm a local man, and I've seen Captain Patten many times in Cranchester. I'm not wanting him to be the guilty one, but it's bad whichever way you look at it. If he's innocent, why doesn't he come forward? We've got evidence against him, but it's just possible that the evidence could be explained away. Then why doesn't he give an explanation?" A lot more lay behind the inspector's words than I knew at the time. Ralph's description had been wired to every port and railway station in England. The police everywhere were on the alert. His rooms in town were watched, and any houses he had been known to be in the habit of frequenting. With such a cordon, it seemed impossible that Ralph should be able to evade detection. He had no luggage, and as far as anyone knew, no money. "I can't find anyone who saw him at the station that night," continued the inspector. "And yet he's well known down here, and you'd think somebody would have noticed him. There's no news from Liverpool either." "You think he went to Liverpool?" queried Poirot. "Well, it's on the cards. That telephone message from the station, just 3 minutes before the Liverpool express left. There ought to be something in that. Unless it was deliberately intended to throw you off the scent. That might just possibly be the point of the telephone message." "That's an idea," said the inspector eagerly. "Do you really think that's the explanation of the telephone call?" "My friend," said Poirot gravely, "I do not know. But I will tell you this. I believe that when we find the explanation of that telephone call, we shall find the explanation of the murder." "You said something like that before, I remember," I observed, looking at him curiously. Poirot nodded. "I always come back to it," he said seriously. "It seems to me utterly irrelevant," I declared. "I wouldn't say that," demurred the inspector. "But I must confess I think Monsieur Poirot here harps on it a little too much. We've got better clues than that. The fingerprints on the dagger, for instance." Poirot became suddenly very foreign in manner, as he often did when excited over anything. "Monsieur l'inspecteur," he said, "beware of the blind. The blind... comment dire? I can't speak French. The little street that has no end to it." Inspector Raglan stared, but I was quicker. "You mean a blind alley?" I said. "That is it. The blind street that leads nowhere. So it may be with those fingerprints. They may lead you nowhere." "I don't see how that can well be," said the police officer. "I suppose you're hinting that they're faked?" "I've read of such things being done, though I can't say I've ever come across it in my experience. But fake or true, they're bound to lead somewhere." Poirot merely shrugged his shoulders, flinging out his arms wide. The inspector then showed us various enlarged photographs of the fingerprints, and proceeded to become technical on the subject of loops and whorls. "Come now," he said at last, annoyed by Poirot's detached manner. "You've got to admit that those prints were made by someone who was in the house that night?" "Bien entendu," said Poirot, nodding his head. "Well, I've taken the prints of every member of the household, everyone, mind you, from the old lady down to the kitchen maid. I don't think Mrs. Ackroyd would enjoy being referred to as the old lady." "Ah, thank you, Kiraboy50. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the calm, relaxing stream. Let me know how you're feeling in chat. I hope you're feeling well. Let's do scales. On a scale of 1 to 10, how is everyone feeling today? 1 being not good at all, and 10 being over the moon, excited and happy. I'd say I'm probably a 7 or 8 today. Let's see, where am I? I don't think Mrs. Ackroyd would enjoy being referred to as the old lady. She must spend a considerable amount on cosmetics. "Everyone's," repeated the inspector fussily. "Including mine," I said dryly. "Very well, none of them correspond. That leaves us 2 alternatives. Ralph Patton, or the mysterious stranger the doctor here tells us about. When we get hold of those two... Much valued time may have been lost, broke in Poirot. I don't quite get you, Mr. Poirot. You have taken the prints of everyone in the house, you say, murmured Poirot. Is that the exact truth you are telling me there, Monsieur l'Inspecteur? Certainly. Without overlooking anyone? Without overlooking anyone. The quick or the dead? For a moment, the inspector looked bewildered at what he took to be a religious observation. Then he reacted slowly. You mean the dead, Monsieur l'Inspecteur? The inspector still took a minute or two to understand. I am suggesting, said Poirot placidly, that the fingerprints on the dagger handle are those of Mr. Ackroyd himself. It is an easy matter to verify. His body is still available. But why? What would be the point of it? You're surely not suggesting suicide, Monsieur Poirot. Ah, no. My theory is that the murderer wore gloves or wrapped something around his hand. After the blow was struck, he picked up the victim's hand and closed it around the dagger handle. But why? Poirot shrugged his shoulders again. To make a confusing case even more confusing. Well, said the inspector, I'll look into it. What gave you the idea in the first place? When you were so kind as to show me the dagger and draw attention to the fingerprints. I know very little of loops and whorls. See, I confess my ignorance frankly. But it did occur to me that the position of the prints was somewhat awkward. Not so would I have held a dagger in order to strike. Naturally, with the right hand brought up over the shoulder backwards, it would have been difficult to put it in exactly the right position. Inspector Raglan stared at the little man. Poirot, with an air of great unconcern, flecked a speck of dust from his coat sleeve. Well, said the inspector, it's an idea. I'll look into it all right, but don't you be disappointed if nothing comes of it. He endeavored to make his tone kindly and patronizing. Poirot watched him go off. Then he turned to me with twinkling eyes. Another time, he observed, I must be more careful of his amour propre. Propre? And now that we are left to our own devices, what do you think, my good friend, of a little reunion of the family? The little reunion, as Poirot called it, took place about half an hour later. We sat round the table in the dining room at Fernley. Poirot at the head of the table like the chairman of some ghastly board meeting. The servants were not present, so we were 6 in all. Mrs. Ackroyd, Flora, Major Blunt, young Raymond, Poirot, and myself. When everyone was assembled, Poirot rose and bowed. Messieurs, mesdames, I have called you together for a certain purpose. He paused. To begin with, I want to make a very special plea to mademoiselle. To me? Said Flora. Mademoiselle, you are engaged to Captain Ralph Patton. If anyone is in his confidence, you are. I beg you, most earnestly, if you know of his whereabouts, to persuade him to come forward. 1 little minute, as Flora raised her head to speak. Say nothing till you have well reflected. Mademoiselle, his position grows daily more dangerous. If he had come forward at once, no matter how damning the facts, he might have had a chance of explaining them away. But this silence, this flight, what can it mean? Surely only one thing, knowledge of guilt. Mademoiselle, if you really believe in his innocence, persuade him to come forward before it is too late. Flora's face had gone very white. Too late, she repeated very low. Poirot leant forward, looking at her. See now, mademoiselle, he said very gently. It is Papa Poirot who asks you this. The old Papa Poirot, who has much knowledge and much experience. I would not seek to entrap you, mademoiselle. Will you not trust me and tell me where Ralph Patton is hiding? The girl rose and stood facing him. Monsieur Poirot, she said in a clear voice, I swear to you, swear solemnly, that I have no idea where Ralph is, and that I have neither seen him nor heard from him either on the day of the murder, or since. She sat down again. Poirot gazed at her in silence for a minute or two, Then he brought his hand down on the table with a sharp rap. Bien! That is that, he said. His face hardened. Now appeal to these others who sit around this table. Think up Mrs. Ackroyd, Major Blunt, Dr. Shepard, Mr. Raymond. You are all friends and intimates of the missing man. If you know where Ralph Patton is hiding, speak out. There was a long silence. Poirot looked to each in turn. I beg of you, he said in a low voice. Speak out. But still there was silence, broken at last by Mrs. Ackroyd. I must say, she observed in a plaintive voice, that Ralph's absence is most peculiar indeed, not to come forward at such a time. It looks, you know, as though there were something behind it. I can't help thinking, Flora dear, that it was a very fortunate thing your engagement was never formally announced. Mother! Cried Flora angrily. Providence, declared Mrs. Ackroyd. I have a devout belief in Providence, a divinity that shapes our ends, as Shakespeare's beautiful line runs. Surely you don't think the Almighty directly responsible for thick ankles, Mrs. Ackroyd, do you? Asked Geoffrey Raymond, his irresponsible laugh ringing out. His idea was, I think, to loosen the tension, but Mrs. Ackroyd threw him a glance of reproach and took out her handkerchief. Flora has been saved a terrible amount of notoriety and unpleasantness. Not for a moment that I think dear Ralph had anything to do with poor Roger's death. I don't think so. But then I have a trusting heart. I always have had, ever since a child. I am loath to believe the worst of anyone. But, of course, one must remember that while Ralph was in several air raids as a young boy, the results are apparent long after, sometimes they say. People are not responsible for their actions in the least. They lose control, you know, without being able to help it. Mother, cried Flora, you don't think Ralph did it? Come, Mrs. Ackroyd, said Blunt. I don't know what to think, said Mrs. Ackroyd tearfully. It's all very upsetting. What would happen to the estate, I wonder, if Ralph were found guilty? Raymond pushed his chair away from the table violently. Major Blunt remained very quiet, looking thoughtfully at her. Like shell shock, you know, said Mrs. Ackroyd obstinately. And I dare say Roger kept him very short of money, with the best intentions, of course. I can see you are all against me, but I do think it is very odd that Ralph has not come forward, and I must say I am thankful Flora's engagement was never announced formally. I hate the mother. It will be tomorrow, said Flora in a clear voice. Flora, cried her mother, aghast. Flora had turned to the secretary. Will you send the announcement to the Morning Post, and the Times, please, Mr. Raymond? If you are sure that is wise, Miss Ackroyd, he replied gravely. She turned impulsively to Blunt. You understand, she said. What else can I do? As things are, I must stand by Ralph. Don't you see that I must? She looked very searchingly at him, and after a long pause he nodded abruptly. Mrs. Ackroyd burst out into shrill protests. Flora remained unmoved. Then Raymond spoke. I appreciate your motives, Miss Ackroyd, but don't you think you are being rather precipitate? Wait a day or two. Tomorrow, Flora said in a clear voice. It's no good, Mother, going on like this. Whatever else I am, I'm not disloyal to my friends. Monsieur Poirot, Mrs. Ackroyd appealed tearfully. She's doing... can't you say anything at all? Nothing to be said, interpolated Blunt. She's doing the right thing. I'll stand by her through thick and thin. Flora held out her hand to him. Thank you, Major Blunt, she said. Mademoiselle, said Poirot, will you let an old man congratulate you on your courage and your loyalty? And will you not misunderstand me if I ask you most solemnly, to postpone the announcement you speak of for at least 2 days more? Flora hesitated. I ask it in Ralph Patton's interests as much as in yours, mademoiselle. You frown. You do not see how that can be. But I assure you that it is so. Pas de blague. You can put the case in my hands. You must not hamper me now. Flora paused a few minutes before replying. I do not like it, she said at last. but I will do what you say." She sat down again at the table. "And now, messieurs et mesdames," said Poirot rapidly, "I will continue with what I was about to say. Understand this, I mean to arrive at the truth. The truth, however ugly in itself, is always curious and beautiful to the seeker after it. I am much aged, my powers may not be what they were." Here he clearly expected a contradiction. "In all probability, this is the last case I shall ever investigate. But Hercule Poirot does not end with a failure. Messieurs et mesdames, I tell you, I mean to know, and I shall know in spite of you all." He brought out the last words provocatively, hurling them in our face, as it were. I think we all flinched back a little, expecting Geoffrey Raymond, who remained good-humored and imperturbable as usual. "How do you mean, in spite of us all?" he asked with slightly raised eyebrows. "But just that, monsieur. Every one of you in this room is concealing something from me." He raised his hand as a faint murmur of protest arose. "Yes, yes, I know what I am saying. It may be of something unimportant, trivial, which is supposed to have no bearing on the case, but there it is. Each one of you has something to hide. Come now, am I right?" His glance, challenging and accusing, swept around the table, and every pair of eyes dropped before his. "Yes, mine as well." "I am answered," said Poirot, with a curious laugh. He got up from his seat. "I appeal to you all. Tell me the truth, the whole truth." There was a silence. "Will no one speak?" He gave the same short laugh again. "C'est dommage," he said, and went out. That was a short chapter. Any thoughts? Any guesses on who did it? Is it Ralph? It is kind of suspicious that Ralph is taken off and cannot be found after his uncle's death, and the fact that no one even knew he was in the area. Anyone else? Taking a sip. I like this music playing. I'm just kind of vibing to it. It's very chill. It's making me sleepy. I should run a poll towards the end when we have a few more viewers, who we think the major suspects are. I think that'd be fun to see if at the end of the book we can guess correctly who it is. Okay, chapter 13, The Goose Quill. Oop. That evening, at Poirot's request, I went over to his house after dinner. Caroline saw me depart with visible reluctance. I think she would have liked to have accompanied me. Poirot greeted me hospitably. He had placed a bottle of Irish whiskey, which I detest, on a small table with a soda water siphon and a glass. He himself was engaged in brewing hot chocolate. It was a favorite beverage of his, I discovered later. He inquired politely after my sister, whom he declared to be a most interesting woman. Oh, thank you, Leon. I will hydrate. I have my cup already prepared. Ah. Thank you, Leon, for being mod extraordinaire. I don't even see you in the stream chat, users. Intrigued. Oh, you just got off work? It's not even showing you're here. That's funny. You're incognito, hiding from me. Let's see. I'm wondering how many, hooray, work! Do you have to work tomorrow? Yes. Oh, Sag. I have tomorrow off. I'm excited. So, Leon, who do you think is the most suspicious right now? We've got Mrs. Ackroyd, who is not happy that Flora gets the money. Yes, lucky. And is convinced it's Ralph and does not want Flora to announce the engagement. We have Ralph, who has disappeared. We have Major Blunt, who knows what's going on. We have Miss Russell, the housemaid, who is also very suspicious, talking about poisoning. We have the parlor maid, Ursula, who left, took money, and like resigned or quit. We have Flora herself, the niece. We know he died. He was stabbed in the neck by a fancy like knife sort of thing that had been a gift from Major Blunt. Raven, thank you for coming in and lurking. I appreciate it. Hopefully the stream is calming. I'm so glad you could make it. Yay. We know that the inspector did fingerprinting, and it was nothing more calming than discussing murder. This is true. It's like those who work just happy to be, oh, thank you. I'm happy you're able to listen too. I hope it makes work a little more enjoyable. We know that they did fingerprint testing. They found fingerprints. Nobody in the house's fingerprints matches that's on the knife. Poirot says, did you check the body? Because it might be his fingerprints. And they're kind of like, oh, okay, we'll check it. Yeah, there's a lot of really sussy people in this book. Flora's the only one who doesn't seem it so much. Catherine, the sister, is just nosy. And just sits in her window watching everything come and go. So I don't think it's her, but there are a lot of sussy people. So I guess we'll look at the end of this chapter and see what's happening. Oh, okay. The Goose Quill. That evening, at Poirot's request, I went over to his house after dinner. Caroline, not Catherine, saw me depart with visible reluctance. The nosy ones tend up to head. That they do. I think she would have liked to have accompanied me. Poirot greeted me hospitably. He had placed a bottle of Irish whiskey. Oh, wait, we got through that part. I am afraid you have been giving her a swelled head, I said dryly. What about Sunday afternoon? He laughed and twinkled. I always like to employ the expert, he remarked obscurely, but he refused to explain the remark. You got all the local gossip anyway, I remarked, true and untrue. And a great deal of valuable information, he added quietly. Such as? He shook his head. Why not have told me the truth, he countered. In a place like this, all Ralph Patton's doings were bound to be known. If your sister had not happened to pass through the wood that day, somebody else would have done so. I suppose they would, I said grumpily. What about this interest of yours in my patients? Again he twinkled. Only one of them, doctor. Only one of them. The last, I hazarded. I find Miss Russell a study of the most interesting, he said evasively. Do you agree with my sister and Mrs. Ackroyd that there is something fishy about her? I asked. Eh? What do you say? Fishy? I explained to the best of my ability. And they say that, do they? Didn't my sister convey as much to you yesterday afternoon? C'est possible. For no reason whatever, I declared. Les femmes, generalized Poirot, they are marvelous. They invent haphazard, and by miracle they are right. Not that it is that, really. Women observe subconsciously 1,000 little details without knowing they are doing so. Their subconscious mind adds these little things together, and they call the result intuition. Me, I am very skilled in psychology. I know these things. He swelled his chest out importantly, looking so ridiculous that I found it... Wasn't it running ads? I apologize to anyone. I should purposely make ad breaks so it doesn't interrupt the story. Looking so ridiculous that I found it difficult not to burst out laughing. Then he took a small sip of his chocolate and carefully wiped his mustache. I wish you'd tell me, I burst out, what you really think of it all. He put down his cup. You wish that? I do. You have seen what I have seen. Should not our ideas be the same? I'm afraid you're laughing at me, I said stiffly. Of course I've no experience of matters of this kind. Poirot smiled at me indulgently. You are like the little child who wants to know the way the engine works. You wish to see the affair, not as the family doctor sees it, but the eye of a detective who knows and cares for no one, to whom they are all strangers and all equally liable to suspicion. You put it very well, I said. So I give you, then, a little lecture. The first thing is to get a clear history of what happened that evening, always bearing in mind that the person who speaks may be lying. I raised my eyebrows. Rather a suspicious attitude, but necessary. I assure you, necessary. Now first, Dr. Shepherd leaves the house at 10 to 9. How do I know that? Because I told you so. But you might not be speaking the truth, or the watch you went by might be wrong. But Parker also says that you left the house at 10 minutes to 9. So we accept that statement and pass on. At 9 o'clock, you run into a man, and here we come to what we call the romance of the mysterious stranger, just outside the park gates. How do I know that that is so? I told you so, I began again, but Poirot interrupted me with a gesture of impatience. Ah, but it is that you are a little stupid tonight, my friend. You know that it is so, but how am I to know? Eh bien, I am able to tell you that the mysterious stranger was not a hallucination on your part, because the maid of a Miss Gannett met him a few minutes before you did, and of her, too, he inquired the way to Fernley Park. We accept his presence, therefore, and we can be fairly sure of two things about him: that he was a stranger to the neighborhood, and that whatever his object in going to Fernley, there was no great secrecy about it, since he twice asked the way there. Yes, I said, I see that. Now I have made it my business to find out more about this man. He had a drink at the Three Boars, I learn, and the barmaid there says he spoke with an American accent and mentioned having just come over from the States. Did it strike you that he had an American accent? Yes, I think he had, I said after a minute or two, during which I cast my mind back, but a very slight one. Précisément. There is also this, which you will remember, I picked up in the summer house. He held out to me the little quill. I looked at it curiously. Then a memory of something I had read stirred in me. Poirot, who had been watching my face, nodded. Yes, heroin. Snow. Drug takers carry it like this and sniff it up the nose. I was not expecting this. I don't remember this part. Diamorphine hydrochloride, I murmured mechanically. This method of taking the drug is very common on the other side. Another proof, if we wanted one, that the man came from Canada or the States. What first attracted your attention to that summer house? I asked curiously. My friend the inspector took it for granted that anyone using that path did so as a shortcut to the house, but as soon as I saw the summer house, I realized that the same path would be taken by anyone using the summer house as a rendezvous. Now it seems fairly certain that the stranger came neither to the front nor to the back door. Then did someone from the house go out and meet him? If so, what could be a more convenient place than that little summer house? I searched it with the hope that I might find a clue inside. I found two: the scrap of cambric and the quill. And the scrap of cambric? I asked curiously. What about that? Poirot raised his eyebrows. You do not use your little gray cells, he remarked dryly. The scrap of starched cambric should be obvious. Not very obvious to me. I changed the subject. Anyway, I said, this man went to the summer house to meet somebody. Who was that somebody? Exactly the question, said Poirot. You will remember that Mrs. Ackroyd and her daughter came over from Canada to live here? Is that what you meant today when you accused them of hiding the truth? Perhaps. Now another point. What did you think of that parlour-maid's story? What story? The story of her dismissal. Does it take half an hour to dismiss a servant? Was the story of those important papers a likely one? And remember, though she says she was in her bedroom from 9:30 until 10 o'clock, There is no one to confirm her statement. You bewilder me, I said. To me it grows clearer, but tell me now your own ideas and theories. I drew a piece of paper from my pocket. I just scribbled down a few suggestions, I said apologetically. But excellent, you have method. Let us hear them. I read out in a somewhat embarrassed voice. To begin with, one must look at the thing logically. Just what my poor Hastings used to say, interrupted Poirot, but alas, he never did so. Point number 1. Mr. Ackroyd was heard talking to someone at 9:30. Point number 2. At some time during the evening, Ralph Patten must have come in through the window, as evidenced by the prints of his shoes. Point number 3. Mr. Ackroyd was nervous that evening and would only have admitted someone he knew. Point number 4. The person with Mr. Ackroyd at 9:30 was asking for money. We know Ralph Patten was in a scrape. These 4 points go to show that the person with Mr. Ackroyd at 9:30 was Ralph Patten, but we know that Mr. Ackroyd was alive at 9:45. Therefore, it was not Ralph who killed him. Ralph left the window open. Afterwards, the murderer came in that way. And who was the murderer? Inquired Poirot. The American stranger. He may have been in league with Parker, and possibly in Parker we have the man who blackmailed Mrs. Ferrars. If so, Parker may have heard enough to realize the game was up, and have told his accomplice so, and the latter did the crime with the dagger which Parker gave him. It is a theory that, admitted Poirot, decidedly you have cells of a kind, but it leaves a good deal unaccounted for. Such as the telephone call, the pushed-out chair. Do you really think that latter important? I interrupted. Perhaps not, admitted my friend. It may have been pulled out by accident, and Raymond or Blunt may have shoved it into place unconsciously under the stress of emotion. Then there is the missing 40 pounds. Leanne, are you all snuggled in? I really want a snuggly blanket overlay for me to snuggle in. I've seen others do that. Nums had one. I think Lola had one the other day. I want that asset to kind of burrow into, like, cozy. I also want cats. I want my floofs on my lap or in I can't gesture. Over here on the couch behind me. Probably a VTube Studio asset. I'll have to look for it. Do I have VTube Studio? I'll have to look up VTube Studio. I've seen it. It's so cute and cozy looking. Sip. Okay. Where was I? The telephone, the push-out chair. Then there was a missing 40 pounds. Oh, stand up and stretch. Okay, thank you. I actually need to do that. It's been a long day of standing, but I can always stand some more and stretch. Oh, my back. It just cracked so loud. I need a better chair. There's one on my throne if anyone felt so kind. I'm saving up for one. So much to save up for. Where are we? Then there is the missing 40 pounds. Given by Ackroyd to Ralph. Oh. Given to Ackroyd by Ackroyd to Ralph, I suggested. He may have reconsidered his first refusal. That still leaves one thing unexplained. What? Why was Blunt so certain in his own mind that, stinkies, that it was Raymond with Mr. Ackroyd at 9:30? He explained that, I said. You think so? I will not press the point. Tell me, instead, what were Ralph Patten's reasons for disappearing? That's rather more difficult, I said slowly. I shall have to speak as a medical man. Ralph's nerves must have gone foot. If he suddenly found out that his uncle had been murdered within a few minutes of his leaving him, after perhaps a rather stormy interview, well, he might get the wind up and clear right out. Men have been known to do that, act guiltily when they're perfectly innocent. Yes, that is true, said Poirot, But we must not lose sight of one thing. I know what you're going to say, I remarked. Motive. Ralph Patten inherits a great fortune by his uncle's death. That is one motive, agreed Poirot. One? Mais oui. Do you realize that there are 3 separate motives staring us in the face? Somebody certainly stole the blue envelope and its contents. That is one motive. Blackmail. Ralph Patten may have been the man who blackmailed Mrs. Ferrars. Remember, as far as Hammond knew, Ralph Patten had not applied to his uncle for help of late. That looks as though he were being supplied with money elsewhere. Then there is the fact that he was in some, how do you say, scrape, which he feared might get to his uncle's ears. And finally, there is the one you have just mentioned. Dear me, I said, rather taken aback. The case does seem black against him. Does it? Said Poirot. That is where we disagree. You and I. 3 motives. It is almost too much. I am inclined to believe that, after all, Ralph Patten is innocent. All the evidence seems to point to Ralph, end of the chapter. And it's like, he's disappeared. He's like gone missing. And, oh yeah, he's innocent. I don't know. Thoughts about that? He dead. You think Ralph is dead? I mean, it's certainly possible. We haven't seen or heard from him since ever, really, in the book. He innocent because he dead. It's certainly possible. I mean, no one has seen him. Nobody's talked to him. He just poof, vanished. Caroline overheard him talking. Yeah, so there's that whole bit. It is a possibility, yeah. I mean, it is a murder mystery, so who knows? And it is Agatha Christie, and she throws loops everywhere. She's the greatest crime writer of all time, and I will fight anyone on that. You cannot tell me she's not. She's amazing. I want to read more of her books. Sadly, only a few are in the public domain, so I can't really do much. But I could do a watch along in my Discord of some of the Poirot movies. That's an idea. I feel like this was brought up in another stream, a watch along of some things. Add the books to your throne. I thought I had a book on my throne. Oh no, I put it on my Amazon wish list until I realized that reveals my city, if not my direct address. I'll have to throw that up there. There's a couple that I do want to read. Yeah, I didn't list it, so I was being very cautious, and then I went, oh, you can see my city. I don't like that. But yeah, there's, I'd love to read the ones that are in the public domain. I think there's 3 more before this one. Unfortunately, And Then There Were None is not one of them, and Murder on the Orient Express is not one of them either. But there's Charlotte Perkins Gilman's Herland, which I want to read, and a Pain Pickle, yeah. And I do have her, Yellow Wallpaper, which I will be reading after this, and then I'm reading Carmilla, which is sitting right here next to me. It is the precursor to Dracula. Right now, Emerus, the Fey Librarian VTuber, is reading Dracula, and I'm going to bounce off of him and read Carmilla, kind of as a back-to-back thing, so we can kind of talk about, you know, how similar and different they are. I think that'll be really cool. But there's other things that I don't want to read too. There's so many, and I'll even take suggestions. Oh, and there is one author that I'm going to reach out to see if she'll allow me to read one of her books on stream, because I absolutely love her, and her books are phenomenal, and she has so many, and I think it would be pretty cool. Yeah, Darcy Coates. She's amazing. She writes horror, but in a way that's really engaging. Her new book, From Below, holy moly, it's terrifying for me. Take a little break right now. Have you read anything by Joseph Finker? No, I haven't. What do they write? I'm gonna pull this up right now. Joseph Fink. Oh, I haven't read, but I do know the author. Yeah, the Night Vale series. Welcome to Night Vale. I still need to read those. Yeah. And the other one is Jeffrey Craner. Is it Crane Nor? Oh yeah, welcome to Night Vale. Yeah, I haven't read it. I highly suggest you feel it just below the ribs. Ooh, okay. That looks really interesting. I'll have to definitely check that out. Are they like they look identical, the two of them? That's interesting. Yeah, I've seen them at the store, especially the Faceless Old Woman one. I want to read those. But yes, if you get a chance to check out Darcy Coates, she's phenomenal. If you like horror, but not like Stephen King horror, which I'm not a fan of, the first book I read of hers was The Haunting of Gillespie House, which was really good. And then I read Craven Manor, which is my favorite. I love that book so much. And I think I'm going to contact her and ask if I can read that book on stream, because it's so good. And I've contacted her about other things before as a fan. And then her new book, From Below, it's a longer one. If you're afraid of horrifying, Faceless Old Woman is one wash, because in Adam Thrown. Oh, cool. Okay. Listening and somehow didn't guess you were going to say Darcy Coates. What is her? Have you heard of Oh, Racy. Oh, it's Racy. Yeah. Of course you would know. I'm going to mention Darcy Coates. Come on. I don't know if so with the Throne, they're not in the public domain, so I don't think I'd be able to read them on stream unless I got permission expressly. So I might contact them and ask them if I'm able to read them on stream. I think I am going to put other books on there. But yeah, Darcy Coates, if you want... Okay, so I know this is a short break from the story time, but still books. I am terrified of deep water. The other VTuber, Crusader Corrupted, was playing, I think, Subnautica on his channel. And I, noped right out of it because I just... That's terrifying. Deep water. No, thank you. Thanks, no. Thanks, but no. And I'm also claustrophobic in some situations, depending. Yes, thalassophobia is real. Oh my god. I know what blue holes are, and if you don't know what a blue hole is, and you're feeling brave, look it up. There's one in particular. Is it in Belize? I think. Dyslexia and my brain goes too fast. Oh, audiobooks are a very valid form of reading. I will fight anyone who says audiobooks are not reading. I will fight them. Glare. I will fight anyone who says it's not valid. It is. Yeah, so thalassophobia, and the whole book takes place underwater looking for a sunken ship where there's mysterious things going around, which is a nightmare recipe to begin with. So I'm like, oh my god. I hyperventilated reading the whole thing. Yeah, see what I mean? The blue hole of Belize, literal portal to hell. It's like beautiful blue waters. This looks lovely. Let's go swimming. Straight down into the pits of hell. Just drops right down. There's no warning. It's not a gradual decline. It's just boom, pothole. So pretty. No, I don't even want to look at it. Literal pictures on the internet of blue holes have me hyperventilating. My students, my lovely, lovely students, found out that I am terrified of them, and one sweet, sweet summer child doing a presentation one time thought it would be so funny in the middle of their PowerPoint to just blam, throw an image of a blue hole up there, particularly the Belize one. I almost passed out in the middle of class. And I was so angry because I'm like, how dare you use my phobia against me? The students thought it was, yeah, kaijus be coming out of that bitch. That is 100% accurate. 100% accurate. Which also leads me to, I have the John Scalzi book, Kaiju Preservation Society, which I need to read. I need to start that. But yes, oh my god, do not like them. No, I will not even put my feet in the water if I'm floating above one. Raised lakeside, so I love swimming in general, but yeah, so fun fact, I have family in Maine. I do not live in Maine or anywhere near there, but I do have family there. And there is a lake that we would go to every summer where some of my family members lived. And I would stay very close to shore and not go anywhere past that. And everyone else would swim across the lake. And I would be in the canoe or whatever going, no. I wouldn't even put my feet in the water above the middle of the lake because just, hell no, you don't know what's underneath you. Hello! Hi, Synth Scene. How are you? Welcome to stream. We're just having a little chat before we continue the story. And then as I got older, I finally said, you know what? This is the year. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna swim across the lake. I literally hyperventilated like the first halfway across, and it's half a mile across. I was literally like freaking out and like doing that float like above water where you stretch out and you're basically like, I don't even know how to describe it. You're just like hovering over the water almost. And I finally got across. I'm like, you know what? That wasn't so bad. Let's swim back across. And so I did it. And every year since, I've been able to do it. And it's really exciting to kind of get over that fear. But the water's not deep. The water levels have gone down. The deepest point is 10 feet. Most of it is very clear. I only like hydroplane over the water when I can see weeds. And even then I look straight ahead and pretend there's nothing below me. But yeah, it's I love lakes and I love swimming in lakes, but it's not a good thing. Yeah, I was able to do it. I've done it several times now, and I do love swimming. It is, nothing to scoff at for sure, but some parts of the lake are like 50 feet deep, and there is no way in hell I will even put my feet in the water there. Because I just imagine like this massive giant monster coming out and eating me, and no. Okay, sip of water. Okay, let's get back to the stream. Let me check and see if I need to do an ad run. You know what, let me do an ad break real quick so that anyone coming in will see it. It'll be just a 1-minute ad break and I will be right back. I'm not going anywhere, just gonna run it so that no one gets stuck again in the middle. Hold on 1 moment, 1 minute, I'll be right back. I'm actually here for the people who are not having to watch the ads. I just realized something. I need to check something. But yes, how's everyone doing? If you're in chat, tell me how you're doing on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being really sad and down and wanting love, and 10 being the happiest you ever have been in the world. Oh, hiccups. I'm at an 8. 8 or 7 or 8. Today was a good day. Okay, I did the thing. I did the thing I was looking of. Okay. Ooh. It says it's preparing 1 minute ad. Oh, it's still got time to go? Okay. Let's continue, and then I'll see what's happening. I didn't think it was... That's weird. Okay. Whatever it's doing its thing. Tell me if it plays, and I'll pause. Okay, chapter 14. Mrs. Ackroyd. Oh, here we go. This lady. After the evening I have just chronicled, the affair seemed to me to enter on a different phase. The whole thing can be divided into two parts, each clear and distinct from the other. Part 1 ranges from Ackroyd's death on the Friday evening to the following Monday night. It is a straightforward narrative of what occurred as presented to Hercule Poirot. I was at Poirot's elbow the whole time. I saw what he saw. I tried my best to read his mind. As I know now, I failed in this latter task. Though Poirot showed me all his discoveries, as for instance the gold wedding ring, he held back the vital and yet logical impressions he had formed. As I came to know later, the secrecy was characteristic of him. He would throw out hints and suggestions, but beyond that he would not go. As I say, up till the Monday evening, my narrative might have been that of Poirot himself. I played Watson to his Sherlock, but after Monday our ways diverged. Poirot was busy on his own account. I got to hear of what he was doing, because in King's Abbot you get to hear of everything, but he did not take me into his confidence beforehand, and I, too, had my own preoccupations. On looking back, the thing that strikes me most is the piecemeal character of this period. Everyone had a hand in the elucidation of the mystery. It was a rather jigsaw puzzle to which everyone contributed their own little piece of knowledge or discovery, but their task ended there. To Poirot alone belongs the renown of fitting those pieces into their correct place. Some of the incidents seemed at the time irrelevant and unmeaning. There was, for instance, the question of the black boots, but that comes later. To take things strictly in chronological order, I must begin with the summons from Mrs. Ackroyd. She sent for me early on Tuesday morning, and since the summons sounded an urgent one, I hastened there, expecting to find her in extremis. The lady was in bed. So much did she concede to the etiquette of the situation, she gave me her bony hand and indicated a chair drawn up to the bedside. "Well, Mrs. Ackroyd," I said, "and what's the matter with you?" I spoke with that kind of spurious geniality which seems to be expected of general practitioners. "I'm prostrated," said Mrs. Ackroyd in a faint voice. "Absolutely prostrated. It's the shock of poor Roger's death. They say these things aren't often felt at the time, you know. It's the reaction afterwards. It is a pity that a doctor is precluded by his profession from being able sometimes to say what he really thinks." Fact. I would have given anything to be able to answer bunkum. Instead, I suggested a tonic. Mrs. Ackroyd accepted the tonic. One move in the game seemed now to be concluded. Not for a moment did I imagine that I had been sent for because of the shock occasioned by Ackroyd's death. But Mrs. Ackroyd is totally incapable of pursuing a straightforward course on any subject. She always approaches her object by tortuous means. I wondered very much why it was she had sent for me. "And then the scene yesterday," continued my patient. She paused as though expecting me to take up a cue. "What scene?" "Doctor, how can you have forgotten that dreadful little Frenchman or Belgian or whatever he is, bullying us all like he did? It has quite upset me, coming on the top of Roger's death." "I'm very sorry, Mrs. Ackroyd," I said. "I don't know what he meant shouting at us like he did. I should hope I know my duty too well to dream of concealing anything. I have given the police every assistance in my assistance in my power. Mrs. Ackroyd paused, and I said, "Quite so." I was beginning to have a glimmering of what all the trouble was about. "No one can say that I have failed in my duty," continued Mrs. Ackroyd. "I am sure Inspector Raglan is perfectly satisfied. Why should this little upstart of a foreigner make a fuss? A most ridiculously looking creature he is, too, just like a comic Frenchman in a review. I can't think why Flora insisted on bringing him into the case. She never said a word to me about it, just went off and did it on her own. Flora is too independent. I am a woman of the world and her mother. She should have come to me for advice first." I listened to all this in silence. What does he think? That's what I want to know. She's mad, copium, you're right. Does he actually imagine I'm hiding something? He positively accused me yesterday. I shrugged my shoulders. "It is surely of no consequence, Mrs. Ackroyd," I said. "Since you are not concealing anything, any remarks he may have made do not apply to you." Mrs. Ackroyd went off at a tangent after her usual fashion. "Servants are so tiresome," she said. "They gossip and talk amongst themselves, and then it gets round, and all the time there's probably nothing in it at all." "Have the servants been talking?" I asked. "What about?" Mrs. Ackroyd cast a very shrewd glance at me. It quite threw me off my balance. "I was sure you'd know, doctor, if anyone did. You were with Monsieur Poirot all the time, weren't you?" "I was." First word problems, yes. "The servants are talking." Well, maybe you don't do crazy shit in front of them. "I was? Then of course you know. It was that girl, Ursula Bourne, wasn't it? Naturally, she's leaving. She would want to make all the trouble she could. Spiteful, that's what they are. They're all alike. Now, you being there, doctor, you must know exactly what she did say. I'm most anxious that no wrong impression should get about. After all, you don't repeat every little detail to the police, do you? There are family matters sometimes, nothing to do with the question of the murder. But if the girl was spiteful, she may have made out all sorts of things." "Oh? Does Mrs. Ackroyd have some secrets she wants kept, and she's afraid of them getting out?" Seems a little sus to me. I was shrewd enough to see that a very real anxiety lay behind these outpourings. Poirot had been justified in his premises. Of the 6 people round the table yesterday, Mrs. Ackroyd at least had something to hide. It was for me to discover what that something might be. "If I were you, Mrs. Ackroyd," I said brusquely, "I should make a clean breast of things." She gave a little scream. "Oh! Doctor, how can you be so abrupt? It sounds as though, and I can explain everything so simply." "Then why not do so?" I suggested. Mrs. Ackroyd took out a frilled handkerchief and became tearful. "I thought, doctor, that you might put it to Monsieur Poirot. Explain it, you know, because it's so difficult for a foreigner to see our point of view. And you don't know, nobody could know, what I have to contend with. A martyrdom, a long martyrdom. That's what my life has been. I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but there it is. Not the smallest bill, but it had all to be gone over, just as though Roger had had a few miserly hundreds a year instead of being, as Mr. Hammond told me yesterday, one of the wealthiest men in these parts." Mrs. Ackroyd paused to dab her eyes with the frilled handkerchief. "Yes," I said encouragingly, "you were talking about bills." Making those, yes, exactly. Those dreadful bills, and some I didn't like to show Roger at all. They were things a man wouldn't understand. He would have said that things weren't necessary, and of course they mounted up, you know, and they kept coming in." She looked at me appealingly, as though asking me to condole with her on this striking peculiarity. It's a habit they have, I agreed. And the tone altered, became quite abusive. I assure you, doctor, I was becoming a nervous wreck. I couldn't sleep at nights, and a dreadful fluttering round the heart. And then I got a letter from a Scotch gentleman. As a matter of fact, there were 2 letters, both Scotch gentlemen. Mr. Bruce McPherson was one, and the other was Colin MacDonald. Quite a coincidence. Hardly that, I said dryly. They are usually Scotch gentlemen, but I suspect a Yes. Thank you for that, Leon. But I suspect a Semitic strain in their ancestry. Oh. I know. Oh, posture check. Thanks, ID. So now we know that they're not only Scotch, but also Jewish. So, of course, she's going on a racist tirade here. I was hydrating at the time you said that. Thank you, ID. You did not just make me do sit-ups in the middle of a reading stream. Why? Oh, okay. Reading break. Or a sit-up break. Damn it. Okay. I'm taking my headset off. Yeah. Okay. I'll do 10. Oh, on my floor. Oh, I need a comfier floor. This is terrible. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I feel like I'm a child in gym school. 7, 8, 9, 10. Fuck it, we'll go to 15. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Ugh. Oh, am I in elementary school again? Okay. Oh. I hope you enjoyed my suffering. Ah, Raven! Oh my gosh, thank you for the gifted subs. I appreciate that. Ant got one, Random got one. The paused face. I don't know what the paused face was. Am I good? I'm good. Somebody's get my paused face. That would be funny, I'm sure. Oh, Raven, thank you. Yeah. Everyone, by the way, should definitely go and follow Raven. She debuted a couple days ago, right? You sent it in general? Oh god. I have to watch. Everyone should go follow Raven because she definitely debuted the other day and it's amazing. Her model is super cool. It's like a throwback 1950s kind of pinup. Like kind of like Betty Boop style. I love it. It's amazing. So you definitely should go follow Raven. She's awesome. And also, thank you again for the gifted subs. Congratulations, Random and Ant. Ant, who's probably lurking at the moment. You blush. I will make you blush every time. I will rage you and make you emotional. It'll be wonderful. Every single time I can rage you, I will rage you. Let's see, where is this in the general? Oh, my face. I look smug all the time. That's memeable. That's for sure. Okay. Alright. Don't go making me cry again. I like making people cry. I will make you cry again. Cry tears of happiness. I'm not mean. I'm very nice and kind. I'm that kind, reassuring teacher. What were we talking about? Before ID was mean And it was like, hydrate, posture check, sit-ups. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. So we were talking about how, yes, she's racist and anti-Semitic now. Um, okay, here we go. We're going back to these Scotch gentlemen that apparently always appear. £10 to 10,000 on one note of hand alone, murmured Mrs. Ackroyd reminiscently. I wrote to one of them, but it seemed there were difficulties. She paused. I gathered that we were just coming to delicate ground. I have never known anyone more difficult to bring to the point. You see, murmured Mrs. Ackroyd. It's all a question of expectations, isn't it? Testamentary expectations, and though, of course, I expected that Roger would provide for me, I didn't know. I thought that if only I could glance over a copy of his will, not in any sense of vulgar prying, but just so I could make my own arrangements. She glanced sideways at me. Even the side eye. The position was now very delicate indeed. Fortunately, words, ingenuously used, will serve to mask the ugliness of naked facts. Sure. I could only tell this to you, dear Dr. Shepherd, said Mrs. Ackroyd rapidly. I can trust you not to misjudge me, and to represent the matter in the right light to Monsieur Perrault. It was on Friday afternoon. She came to a stop and swallowed uncertainly. Yes, I repeated encouragingly. Happy 69. Did Raven hit 69? Friday. Yes, I repeated encouragingly. A Friday afternoon. Well, everyone was out, or so I thought, and I went to Roger's study. I had some real reason for going there. I mean, there was nothing underhand about it, and as I saw all the papers heaped on the desk, it just came to me like a flash. I wonder if Roger keeps his will in one of the drawers of the desk. I'm so impulsive, always was, from a child. I do things on the spur of the moment. He'd left his keys, very careless of him, in the lock of the top drawer. I see, I said helpfully. So you searched the desk. Did you find the will? Mrs. Ackroyd gave a little scream, and I realized that I had not been sufficiently diplomatic. How dreadful it sounds! But it wasn't at all like that, really. She is. I just happened to find the keys and searched its desk. I mean, they were there. Of course it wasn't, I said hastily. You must forgive my unfortunate way of putting things. Of course, men are so peculiar. In dear Roger's place, I should have not objected to revealing the provisions of my will, but men are so secretive. One is forced to adopt little subterfuges in self-defense. And the result of the little subterfuge, I asked. That's just what I'm telling you. As I got to the bottom drawer, Bourne came in. Most awkward. Of course, I shut the drawer and stood up, and I called her attention to a few specks of dust on the surface. But I didn't like the way she looked. Quite respectful in manner, but a very nasty light in her eyes. Almost contemptuous, if you know what I mean. I never have liked that girl very much. She's a good servant, and she says ma'am, and doesn't object to wearing caps and aprons, which I declare to you a lot of them do nowadays. And she can say not at home without scruples if she has to answer the door instead of Parker. And she doesn't have those peculiar gurgling noises inside which so many parlor maids seem to have when they wait at the table. Let me see, where was I? You were saying that in spite of several valuable qualities, you never liked Bourne. No more I do. She's odd. There's something different about her from the others. Too well educated. That's my opinion. You can't tell who are ladies and who aren't nowadays. Ma'am. Really? Lord. And what happened next? I asked. Nothing. At last Roger came in, and I thought he was out for a walk, and he said, "What's all this?" And I said, "Nothing. I just came in to fetch punch." And I took punch and went out with it. Bourne stayed behind. I heard her asking Roger if she could speak to him for a minute. I went straight up to my room to lie down. I was very upset. She was too smart. Don't like it. There was a pause. You will explain to Monsieur Perrault, won't you? I could see for yourself what a trivial matter the whole thing was. But of course, when he was so stern about concealing things, I thought of this at once. Bourne may have had some extraordinary story out of it, but you can explain, can't you? That is all, I said. You have told me everything? Yes, said Mrs. Ackroyd. Oh, yes, she added firmly. But I had noted the momentary hesitation, and I knew that there was still something she was keeping back. It was nothing less than a flash of sheer genius that prompted me to ask the question I did. Mrs. Ackroyd, I said, was it you who left the silver table open? I had my answer in the blush of guilt that even rouge and powder could not conceal. How did you know? She whispered. It was you, then. Yes, you see, there were 1 or 2 pieces of old silver, very interesting. I had been reading up the subject, and there was an illustration of quite a small piece which had fetched an immense sum at Christie's. For those not knowing, Christie's is an auction house that is still used today. They have very expensive things. It looked to be just the same as the one in the silver table. I thought I would take it up to London with me when I went and have it valued. Then if it really was a valuable piece, just think what a charming surprise it would have been for Roger. Ma'am, that is not your... That is not your silver to be auctioning off. Oh, he'll be surprised by the fact that I sold his stuff. Oh, look how much money I got for you. Oh my God. I forgot how much I hated her. I refrained from comments, accepting Mrs. Ackroyd's story on its merits. I even forbore to ask her why it was necessary to abstract what she wanted in such a surreptitious manner. Insufferable, yes. Why did you leave the lid open? I asked. Did you forget? I was startled, said Mrs. Ackroyd. I heard Foot the Lion, the Witch, and the Audacity. Raven, it's true. Can I give points to Raven for that? Because that's hilarious. Is there a way to give points to people? I don't think I can do that. Technically, no? Aw, damn. Okay. That was funny. That was super funny. I forget where I was. I was startled, said Mrs. Ackroyd. I heard footsteps coming along the terrace outside. I hastened out of the room and just got up the stairs before Parker opened the front door to you. That must have been Miss Russell, I said thoughtfully. Mrs. Ackroyd had revealed to me one fact that was extremely interesting. Whether her designs upon Ackroyd's silver had been strictly honorable, I neither knew nor cared. What did interest me was the fact that Miss Russell must have entered the drawing-room by the window, and that I had not been wrong when I judged her to be out of breath with running. Where had she been? I thought of the summer house and the scrap of cambric. I wonder if Miss Russell has had her handkerchief starched, I exclaimed on the spur of the moment. You just stop driving for that one. Raven, please be careful. Oh, okay, I see. Mrs. Ackroyd's start recalled me to myself, and I rose. You think you can explain to Monsieur Perrault? She asked anxiously. Oh, certainly, absolutely. I got away at last, after being forced to listen to more justifications of her conduct. The parlor maid was in the hall, and it was she who helped me on with my overcoat. I observed her more closely than I had done heretofore. It was clear that she had been crying. How is it, I asked, that you told us that Mr. Ackroyd sent for you on Friday to his study? I hear now that it was you who asked to speak to him. For a minute the girl's eyes dropped before mine. Then she spoke. I meant to leave in any case, she said uncertainly. I said no more. She opened the front door for me. Just as I was passing out, she said suddenly in a low voice, Excuse me, sir, is there any news of Captain Patton? Yeah. She has been. I shook my head, looking at her inquiringly. He ought to come back, she said. Indeed, he ought to come back. She was looking at me with appealing eyes. Does no one know where he is? She asked. Do you? I said sharply. She shook her head. No, indeed, I know nothing, but anyone who is a friend to him would tell him this. He ought to come back. I lingered, thinking that perhaps the girl would say more. Her next question surprised me. Oh, okay, good. As long as you're safe. When do they think the murder was done? Just before 10 o'clock? That is the idea, I said, between 9:45 and the hour. Not earlier? Not before 9:45? I looked at her attentively. She was so clearly eager for a reply in the affirmative. That's out of the question, I said. Miss Ackroyd saw her uncle alive at 9:45. She turned away, and her whole figure seemed to droop. A handsome girl, I said to myself as I drove off. An exceedingly handsome girl. Caroline was at home. She had had a visit from Poirot and was very pleased and important about it. I am helping him with the case, she explained. I felt rather uneasy. Caroline is bad enough as it is. What will she be like with her detective instincts encouraged? Are you going round the neighborhood looking for Ralph Patton's mysterious girl? I inquired. I might do that on my own account, said Caroline. No, this is a special thing Monsieur Poirot wants me to find out for him. What is it? I asked. He wants to know whether Ralph Patton's boots were black or brown, said Caroline with tremendous solemnity. I stared at her. I see now that I was unbelievably stupid about these boots. I failed altogether to grasp the point. They were brown shoes, I said. I saw them. Not shoes, James. Boots. Monsieur Poirot wants to know whether a pair of boots Ralph had with him at the hotel were brown or black. A lot hangs on it. Call me dense if you like. I didn't see. And how are you going to find out? I asked. Caroline said there would be no difficulty about that. Our Annie's dearest friend was Miss Gannett's maid, Clara, and Clara was walking out with the boots at the Three Boars. The whole thing was simplicity itself, and by the aid of Miss Gannett, who cooperated loyally, at once giving Clara leave of absence, the matter was rushed through at express speed. It was when we were sitting down to lunch that Caroline remarked, with would-be unconcern, "About those boots of Ralph Patton's." "Well," I said, "what about them?" "Monsieur Poirot thought they were probably brown. He was wrong. They're black." And Caroline nodded her head several times. She evidently felt that she had scored a point over Poirot. I did not answer. I was puzzling over what the color of a pair of Ralph Patton's boots had to do with the case. I'm also baffled about what it matters. Unless a piece of it ripped off? I don't know. This is really getting good. Let's see. We've been streaming for an hour, 41 minutes. All right, I'm going to leave it up to you, my viewers. Do we want to read chapter 15 about Jeffrey Raymond, or should we cut it off there and leave that for next stream? It's an 11-page chapter. I'm really enjoying this book a lot and reading it. We're already at the, let's see. Not all of this is stuff at the end that you have to read. Oh, they include a little checklist at the back of the book so you can, there's Miss Marple reading list that you're supposed to read in order. Poirot's books you can read in any order. If you want to read them in chronological order, it's as followed. They're published out of order. Where's Murder of Roger Ackroyd? It's the third book written, but it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th book chronologically. Let's see. I'll let you guys decide. $296, is that part of it? No, that's the Queen exclusive content. $286. What? Raven, what are you doing? Oh my god, Raven! Thank you. I wasn't even like talking or doing. I'm just staring at my book. Oh my god, thank you, Raven. More students who don't deserve bathroom breaks. Oh my god, Raven, you're so sweet. Everyone go follow Raven right now. I command it. Sophia says you must. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. Congrats to Lorelai got a sub. Racy got a sub. Sky got a sub. Kai got a sub. Xandric got a sub. Yay. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Raven, we need to do a collab at some point. We're going to talk about this. I see so many homies get gifts. Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of something. So I want to do a goal. Okay, I think we're gonna end the stuff there. We are more than halfway through the book. That's exciting. So we'll definitely be able to finish it in like 2 or 3 more streams, depending on that. But since we're kind of going there, okay, and I'll be able to make it a lot of my friends' streams because work. I do what I can. Oh, Raven, that's so sweet. You really didn't have to. I just like having you here. I like having everyone here and enjoying like all the streams and the content I do. It makes me really happy, especially the reading streams, because I love books so much and I want to share that with everyone. Oh, I wish I could hug you, Raven. I'm hugging you virtually. Enjoy ad-free. Do you have ad-free? Do you have your own sub? I swear to God, if you don't have a sub of your own. How do I see who's got a sub? Sub-gifter, sub-gifter. Who's got a sub-prime VIP? When you get home. I've noticed that too. It lets me gift subs to people, but I can't if I'm on my phone, but I can't sub myself if I'm on a phone, which is so bizarre. I don't understand that. I had an idea. I'm gonna throw up like a counter if I can figure out on my channels. But I wanted to do like a sub goal. They upcharge gift subs on phone. Yeah, they do. Yeah. I still do it anyway. It's fine. So I want to do like I want to do a challenge. If I can hit like, I was thinking 100 subs, but that might be unreasonable, but like 50 subs, if I can do that, like playing a horror game or something, a game of everyone's choice. Like, I get no say in it. You guys pick and vote on it in the Discord, and I have no choice but to play it. Like, I think that would be fun. No, Raven, I swear to God, don't you dare. Raven, no. 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 I refuse. Stop that. You did 5. No, stop. Oh, God, don't. Because, okay, so, Raven, you did just that alone. I mean, holy crap, you did 7 gifted sub. That means so much to me. It's no. Oh my God, Raven, save it for your streams and your models. I swear to God. Some ground rules for the games. Well, obviously they would not be able to have any like sexual content. They'd have to be like Twitch approved. Like they couldn't be any from like the no list, like dramatical murder, such as no subnautic. Raven, Stop! Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Thank you. Oh my god, that means so much to me. But stop. Seriously, I'm just happy that you're here and enjoying this stream. Leon, if I got to that amount, honestly, I would play a Subnautica stream. I would freak out the entire time. I'd probably have like 10 panic attacks during stream. I'd probably have to medicate myself beforehand, but I would do it. I would legitimately would do it. No, Raven. Seriously, don't do it. Money is important, and it's expensive to function out there. I just like doing this for fun. I would die. Of course, I would probably fall out of my chair, which, speaking of, I highly recommend, if anyone hasn't gone to number 1-2 stream, Num's stream, he was playing Outlast 2. Did I mention this? I don't think I mentioned it, because it was the other day. He was playing Outlast 2, and he's not good at horror games, and he broke his monitor. I felt so bad. He like fell out of his chair and broke his monitor at one of the jump scares, and I felt so bad. So if anyone needs like subs gifted, it's definitely Nums at this point. He needs to replace his monitor. Okay, yeah. I would legit, if that happened, I would honestly let you guys pick whatever game, as long as it's like okay for Twitch to stream, and I would do it. I almost died playing The Backrooms 1998, but I made it. I did it in 2 streams. So I'm very pleased with myself. I was able to get through what some streamers are calling the most terrifying horror game of the year because of its psychological aspects. So thanks. Which is speaking, believe me, I'm not getting in a rough spot from any of this, and extra money suffered. Aww. Aw, that's sweet. You're amazing, Raven. And that's why we love you and raid you all the time. Because you're amazing, and you deserve all of the love. And again, shout out to Raven. Again, because I can. And also congratulations to Hello and Caffeinated Meyer for subs. Oh, that's the thing I wanted to check. I had up on YouTube, I was loading up all of the videos from my streams, and I think yeah, unfortunately, I screwed up. I didn't upload part 2 of the Backrooms before it was deleted off of Twitch, which is unfortunate because it was hilariously terrifying. I did get some good clips of it. I know somebody told me just replay it, and I said, nope, not a chance in hell. So unfortunately, it did get deleted. I wasn't thinking of that, but I did get some good clips that I might upload to YouTube, and that are still on my Twitch stream, so there's that. But that definitely wouldn't be the case with these other games. So anyone watching, if you go to my Discord, which is my Discord set up on here? Let's find out. Yes, okay. If you join the Discord, you can throw in some recommendations for horror games. And if I reach, I'll figure out a subscriber goal. Is it a broken link? No! F. Hold on. There we go. I'll fix that at some point. Nope, that's not it either. Mother of God. There we go. if I can get I'll figure it out. And if we get the subs, then I'll let you guys pick the game no matter what it is. I'll just deal with it and play. It might take me a while to get through, but I will get through it. And also, I will get a heart rate monitor. It's on my list of things to get. I actually should put it on my throne, but I will get a heart rate monitor, and you can see exactly how terrified I will be. So it'll probably be a crazy high goal, but that's fine. It'll give time to build up to it. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for coming in today. Raven, you are the MVP. I appreciate you, and I love you so much. You're just an amazing person. I'm so glad that we knew each other, and I'm so glad you debuted, and I can't wait to do a collab with you at some point in the future. We'll have to talk about it and what we're gonna do. It'll be super fun. I know it. Okay, so let's see who we're going to raid. Let's see who is on. Put it on the throne. The heart rate monitor. Okay. Let's see. Kyo's got a ton. Billy, Cat, Narumi. Let's go raid Narumi. Narumi has 8. Narumi's playing Apex. Okay, so I need to. Ooh, Lily's playing Phasmophobia. We'll go with Narumi. So on Friday, tomorrow, I'm not sure what time yet, but Raven! Oh my god! You don't do odd numbers? Honestly, mood. I don't either. 8 is my preferred number. I like the number 8 a lot. It has to do with my OCD, because 8 is an even number divided by 2 even number, divisible by 2 other even numbers, 2 and 4. Thank you. You're so sweet. Leon, your spot has been taken. Sorry. Okay, so we're gonna raid Narumi sometime tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming Apex for the first time. Yes, 8 is symmetrical. Didn't you were in charge? I don't know. Last time you and Ray were fighting it out. What was I got distracted. Some point tomorrow, I'll post it on Twitter and in my Discord. I'm going to be playing Apex on my own stream for the first time, with Narumi and Cinnabon and probably Sky. She'll be coming in at some point, I'm sure, and we'll like rotate in and out. I have been playing Apex Wednesdays with ID10 and Luna and Bunny and Lorelai and Dinah when they can, and Ari. I think I might be missing a few, and I apologize for that. It's not intentional. And I'm getting better. I think I'm getting better. I unlocked my first, legend that wasn't just the basic, and I'm really enjoying playing to the point where I may or may not have stayed up till 4 in the morning yesterday playing, and I had to work a long day, so I'm a little tired. So we're going to do that tomorrow, and then on Saturday, I'm playing Uno with Cinnabon, Miss Ray, and Rekka. Raven, we should play together sometime. It'll be fun. I'm sure Uno on Saturday will destroy some friendships. That's fine. It does. Sunday is Horizon Zero Dawn again, and then Monday will be Minecraft Monday, and then we'll go from there. So that'll be fun, and we've got a fun few days planned out, and hopefully everything goes well. So let us get raiding Narumi. We'll watch some Apex. I'll analyze his playstyle. We'll do that. So, ooh, speaking of Horizon Zero Dawn, yes. What's up? Yay, you got it today? Oh my god, you're gonna love it. Even if you watch it from other people, playing it is a completely different experience, because there's different ways you can play it. I prefer to sneak around when possible. Others just go full bore. It's kind of like Apex in that. Just third person. There's also side missions that I forgot about, and it's too late for me to do. There's a lot. There's so much. And the DLC with the Frozen Wilds is amazing too. And I'm going to be veering off to that in a little bit. Pain! No pain! For missing them? They weren't ones that are necessary for endgame, like, characters, because if that was the case, I'd be like, oh, time to start over. So I'm not, like, too upset about it, but it did have some interesting interactions that I missed, but it's okay. All right, I'm going to stop talking. We're going to raid Narumi. Why doesn't it give me all of them? Where are you, Narumi? There you are. Okay. All right, so let's go. Everyone buckle up, get ready to go. When we get there, let's tell Narumi that he forgot his homework. I think that'll be super cool and fun. All right, I'll see everyone hopefully tomorrow. Let's go. We're heading over in 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Bye, everyone. Love you.
Nice. Thank you for the raid, Sophia. You don't have ulti, huh? Don't tell me that. I used to always forget my homework though. When I was back in high school. Thank you for the shout out.